think before we get started, so I just wanted to acknowledge the events that happened over the weekend in Buffalo. I know that the news is just really rough lately, and I just wanted to encourage everyone on the call to take care of themselves. And if you need to like go off video or if you need to stay on mute during the call, that's totally fine. I think it's also just really hard sometimes to process these events just because they've just become so frequent. And I think that it can be easy to get numb to, all of the mass shootings, especially when they're motivated by white supremacy and racism. But I just want to encourage all of you to, like I said, take care of yourselves and just to tap into your humanity, whatever that means for you. So just make sure that you're, like I said, make sure you're taking care of yourselves. If you do want to talk to staff members about, what's been happening or anything else that like may or may not be related, program staff are always here. So you can always email us. Thanks, Tabitha. Yeah, Tabitha is the queen of self-care. So, and yeah, Allison, sometimes we have to tune out from news because it can get really stressful. So, okay, so here's the announcements for today. So we will be sending out a assessment that is kind of like a career jobs assessment. It's called the Cooter. Some of you who have been in the program before have already done it. So we have different assessment options for you all. So just make sure you do one of them, whether it's the Cooter or one of the other ones. And you'll have, I believe, 2 or 3 weeks to do it. So you'll just need to have it done by June 7th. So that's when you'll be at the next official like PD session. So next, like I was saying with Cameron's question, we will be sending out internship placements tomorrow. So keep an eye out on your email for those. And then also make sure that you attend HR orientation next week. So it's at the same time as PD normally is. So we were hoping you had your calendars held for this time. So it will be from 6 to 7:30 next week. It's really, really important to attend to make sure that you can get hired and things like that. For people who do not have an internship, the next time you will need to attend PD is on Tuesday, June 7th, like I just said. So it will be also functioning as a mentorship kickoff. So you will be meeting your mentor there who you will be matched with. So just remember that. And I know the mentors are really excited to meet you all. So Jordan Fisher is in the process of doing all of those, matches. So if you have not submitted your mentee intake form yet, I highly recommend you do it. This is your last chance. So if you want to make sure that the chance of a successful match goes up, send in your form to Jordan. So let us know if you need the link again. So then just a note for you all, PD will start being in person on Friday, June 17th. So do mark your calendars for that. It's from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Since school will be out. PD attendance is required. So on that note, for finishing all of the virtual sessions, you need to have been present at 3 out of these 5 virtual sessions. And then we will be sending out gift cards to those folks who have been present at 3 out of 5 at least. I think someone just put something in the chat. Let's see. Okay, I will respond to you separately, Lucy. But yeah, I think that's it for now. I think if anyone has any questions, just put them in the chat. But I'm going to pass it off to Olivia.
Hi, y'all. So kind of wanted to kick us off with a question and hear your thoughts and hear where you're at. Jordan, if I could get the next slide, that would be helpful. So in your opinion, in your experience, why is it so important that you hone or work on and develop your email and communication skills? And let's start there.
I can answer this question. I would say because the world works around communication, so you're gonna need great communication skills in order to make things flow well. And professional wise, I want to say professionally we usually use email, so work on email skills in order to move on in life.
Awesome answer, Cameron. And we're getting some really good ones in the chat too. So Trinity suggests so that you are taken seriously, which I think is very true. Jack says these skills can land you jobs. Cheney says because these skills are used a lot throughout your career. And Micah says effective communication allows for more opportunities, which is very true. And then Endia says to communicate with professionals, texting is a whole different language. I completely agree. We would say things differently to our moms, to our bosses, and to our friends, and that's good and that's appropriate. The way we communicate should be based on thinking about who our audience is, for sure. And then just a couple of tips, if you have them. What are some of your best tips for communicating with people in a professional manner?
Can I say something?
Please do.
So I think verbiage is very important, not just like seeing who your audience is, but just making sure you sound professional in what you're saying. And especially in emails, you're supposed to be very clear and concise because nobody wants to read like a huge paragraph. So yeah.
Absolutely, Sydney. And we're getting some great answers. Micah says in all caps, proofread before you hit send, which is so true. Markel wants to remind us to always say hello or have a greeting. Completely true. I'm hearing trying to make sure that you are being concise or getting to the point. Using a signature, using dear if you want to make the email a little more formal. Awesome job. Punctuation, yes. Y'all definitely have, I think, a leg up here. So we'll definitely be leaning on you as we continue this workshop to help us get to the most professional communication we possibly can as we rewrite some emails later on. New slide. So just as to kind of sum up what you have already wonderfully contributed, communication in the workplace is actually one of the things that when we study jobs and workplaces that are going really well and are functioning very highly, those two things track together. So successful workplaces have successful communication. Exchanging information and ideas within an organization is called workplace communication. And effective communication occurs when a message is sent and received accurately. So if the thing that you meant to say was understood as you meant it to be taken, then you have communicated effectively. And that is our goal for all workplace communication. And as you've noted, why is it so important? Well, effective communication avoids confusion. It provides a purpose to the things that we're doing. It can build a positive company culture when people are being professional and cordial and helpful with one another, and it creates accountability. So that professional communication gives us a way to track who said they were going to do what and make sure we know who was responsible for which tasks, which is awesome. Next slide, and I'm handing it off to Kirsten.
Hi, everyone. So deciding how to communicate, here are a couple of guidelines that you can follow. It is not silly to think, how should I approach this communication, whether that be an email or in person, because like Olivia already mentioned, there are, different circumstances calls for different ways to approach things. So you want to think about who is the sender / the communicator and the communication recipient. So you want to think about who are you delivering your message to. You have to consider their communication style along with other relevant factors like your relationship. So Olivia already mentioned, the way you talk to your mom or your friend is not going to be the same way that you talk to an employer or your coworkers. And then you want to think what are you trying to communicate? It's important to check yourself on this before sending something or saying something. You don't want anyone to miss the true intention of your message, and you want to make sure the message you're sending is actually expressing what you're meaning. And so this is important, especially when people have different understandings of things. You can run into that, so you want to make sure that what you're saying is what you mean and that the person receiving that message is understanding it as you mean it. You want to think when will you communicate the issue or question? You have to consider the level of urgency behind your message and also what time of day it is to allow the person to see or hear your message and respond in an appropriate time. And so if you need an urgent response on a project you're working on, or you have a question that may prevent you from continuing work, you probably shouldn't send an email at 1 a.m. because you're not going to get a fast reply. And so just keep in mind the time of day and the type of communication you decide to use. And then you want to think why. What is the goal of your communication? And so an example would be if you have a coworker who isn't responsive to your emails and you decide to have a conversation with them. Is your goal to get an answer to your last email, or is your goal to have them be more responsive in the long term? Deciding your goal beforehand will most likely change the type of conversation you have and the things you ask of them. So you want to make sure you're clear before you approach that communication. And then you want to think how. What channel or medium are you using to communicate? How will you deliver your message? So what medium is most appropriate to the situation, given the nature of the message and the relationship you have with the person you're trying to communicate with. So if you're a manager and you need to give an employee constructive feedback, what would you do? Via email or phone? Would you make that in person? It's not a great practice. Like if you're trying to give someone constructive feedback that, may hurt their feelings or come off harsh, that's something that, you don't want to text them, or you may not even want to call them. You would, probably want to do that in person so that you can portray exactly what you mean and, have body language, face-to-face, all those great things that come with that. And then next slide, please. So overall, guidelines for workplace communication, you want to be respectful and demonstrate that you're actively listening. Sometimes, even when I am listening, I forget to think, how can I show that? And so you can ask yourself, how can I show this person that I am actively listening to them? Be aware of your body language and maintain a professional image. Take notes and write things down. And then lastly, emails are not appropriate for last minute notifications or cancellations. Next slide.
So next we're going to talk about honing in on email communication. And kind of the etiquette when you are, using it in the workplace. So I want to start by posing a question to you guys, which is, what do you already know about email etiquette specifically? Like, why do we use it? Maybe what are general good response timelines? So if you want to either throw that in the chat or come off of mute, but share any knowledge you might have about workplace email etiquette.
I was just wondering for when writing an email, should you use your full name when signing off? Or like if you're trying to send an email to someone, should you sign your name on it? Or that's usually what I do.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So when you are writing an email, it's good when you sign off to use like a polite like exiting statement, like best regards, or something along those lines, and then have your name at the bottom and your full name so they're reminded who it's from and they know how to identify you. But that's a great question. So I see in the chat responding within 24 hours, but within an hour if it's urgent. Allison says email the employer 24 hours after an interview. Yep. Ziomara says respectful tone and be straight to the point and polite. Allison brings up a good point. Yes, you should definitely check your email daily. Yes, Evie, I apologize if I pronounced it incorrectly, but says that you should always introduce yourself and how you know each other. That's really good etiquette for when you're reaching out and maybe haven't connected with the person before. Yep, use name in an email so they know. Introducing yourself. And then yes, Zoe says don't expect people to respond to work emails over the weekend. Yeah, so those are definitely all good. So timelines for like email response, like, yeah, don't expect people to respond over the weekend or outside of kind of working business hours, which is 9 to 5. So be kind of cognizant of that establishment's hours. Really work to identify yourself and how you might know them, and taking the time to have a signature that, you know, denotes who you are and how they can get a hold of you. So really taking the time to think about these things can show just, you know, employers that extra step of who you are as a professional in the workplace and what you're capable of. Oh, see, I missed the meme. So why does this matter? So like I said, emails are an important reflection of yourself in the workplace, and they really show your communication style to those around you. And so when you're, you know, talking with others, you don't want any type of unprofessional email to hurt your reputation, you know, with employers or supervisors. So, you know, just trying to be ahead of kind of what you're sending out, making sure that it reflects the hard work you're putting in and what you contribute to the workplace rather than catching you slipping up. So it's really something to take the time to do when you're, you know, writing these communications. I know it can be easy to think email is something quick, but really sit down, take the time to structure it out and really think it through and kind of proofread, or maybe use some sort of like additional proofreading software to help you to make sure that it's all squared away. So we're just going to go over some general etiquette tips, even though we kind of had a lot of you highlight some of them and did a great job. But the first one is to use a professional email address. Oops, actually, I believe I am taking Ben's slide. Is that correct? Sorry, I was just going right in. We're going to dive right into email etiquette and I will pass it off to Ben. My apologies, Ben.
Yeah, that's no problem. Right, so we're just going to hop into a few examples here on the next slide of what a professional email address might look like. Right, so first, I guess I'll just ask the crowd, and go ahead, you can come off mute or put in the chat. What makes a professional email address? And what are some things you might see in that would denote that?
I mean, obviously your name and maybe like a number, but I don't know. I'm a little bit confused on this whole concept, Ben. So that's
Okay.
hard.
All right, that's why we're here.
Yeah.
Right, so basically, you know, I'm saying includes your name. Yeah, so the way that I like to describe it is just, it shows who you are and it keeps it simple, right? Something pretty straightforward, usually first initial, last name, last name, something like that. It may also display your organization's name, anything kind of along those lines. So we have a few examples here and we'll just go through and I'm going to ask which ones are professional, which ones maybe aren't so professional. So let's maybe just do when I read it off, I'll read the email address and you just put in the chat yes or no for professional or not. All right, so this first one looks like we have Olivia Ordonez@gmail.com. What do we think? I see a stream of yes, and I think you are correct on that. How about this next one though? Pitiful creature of darkness@gmail.com. No. Anyone want to put in why?
There's not really a first name or a last name, but
Right. So it's not telling you at all who this is even from. Any other
Yeah.
reasons?
I was gonna say it's like random. Just
Yeah, it doesn't tell you anything about the sender. You know, aside from the name, it doesn't tell you about really anything that's going on. You know, if I saw that email address come to me, I would think perhaps someone had the wrong email address they were sending it to. All right, next here we've got bekelly@yahoo.com. Yeah, I think that one's perfectly fine. I mean, sure, you could maybe elongate the first name, spell that out or something, but I think that's acceptable. Next, we've got Catherine_Odanes2@gmail. Yeah, and so while this one it's not bad, but if you can, I would potentially take out the underscore, take out the number, just keep it as clean and simple as you can. All right, next we've got cat pants with 3 S's at Hotmail. What do we think? No. No. All right. I see a lot of no. I see a nah. All right. I think that one's pretty straightforward. And then the last one we've got Miyaki305.com. No, right? I don't think this one is really explaining too much, and it has a 305 in it. I'm not going to count that one there. All right. And so I guess last little question here. Why does your email address matter? Why does the actual address matter? Anyone?
So they know how to contact you, and also so they get to like know a sense of the kind of person you are. Like if you give them a generic one that's more professional, they'll know if you're a better candidate versus if you give pitiful creature of darkness, they might not want to hire you.
Fair enough. I think that's a good point. We've got maybe the first thing that an individual associates with your name. Also true. So sometimes you'll work with folks that you may never really even meet in person. You might even not even see them on a Zoom meeting or something, but you might interact with them even on a daily or weekly basis. So when you're seeing that email come across, that's what you're associating the person with, right? So in trying to be professional, you want to make sure your email is on that same wavelength. So why don't we move on to the next slide here? We're going to talk about some subject lines.
Hey, Ben, can I just
Yep.
add something real quick?
Absolutely.
Also, just to make sure that your display name on your email address is also your name, because that can sometimes, if you're using it for something else, or, you know, it may, even if you are using an email that isn't directly your name, but maybe your initials or something like that, you want to make sure that your display name is accurate. And then also, I just wanted to kind of, you know, you don't want too many numbers in there, but for people who have more common names, email addresses run out real quick. So, you know, it is okay to have some numbers. You just don't want a long string of them. And I also in the chat, someone said, is it all right to use a school email address? And I would say definitely, as long as it has part of your name. I know, especially like Ann Arbor Public Schools, it's just a string of numbers at AAPS. .com or .org or whatever, and that can be kind of hard because it doesn't have any identifying information. But if you are going to use a school email, it's totally fine. Just make sure that you know, it has some sort of part of your name in it if possible.
All right, thank you, Kathleen. We'll skip on over to subject line. So again, you want to be as straightforward as you possibly can. You know, you want to get your subject across cleanly, succinctly. You know, you don't really want to have a subject line that's 20 words long, because that should lead you into the email, right? It should pull you in as something grabbing you. This is what it's going to be about. So again, we'll go through some of these examples, and we can do the same kind of thing, yes or no in chat, if you think it is an effective subject line. So this first one, we've got reminder, executive summaries due. What do we think about that? Yep, we've got some yeses here. I would say so as well. You know, it's denoting this is a reminder and telling you what it is. Next, we got response requested, lunch preferences. What do we think here? Yep, same kind of deal, right, as the first one. Straight to the point, tells you what it is and why. Following that, we've got update, team dinner rescheduled. Yep. Again, I think that's acceptable as well. It's telling you what the email is going to be about. It's an update, and it's telling you what it's updating about. Next, we've got forward, must see. And what's the problem with this one? Might be a couple problems.
I don't think it's the point. Like, I don't think it's just like, I don't know. Not really. Yeah, not to the point much.
Yep. And we've got, even looks like spam. And yeah, this is something, you don't really want to see words repeated really like that. And then must see, it's not telling you what's in there. It's just telling you to look at it. And yeah, that's kind of a red flag in my eyes. Next, we've just got hey with an exclamation point at the end. Right, very non-descriptive, just saying, hey, you can do a little better than that, right? Next one, call me. Yeah, you don't really need that either, We've got, I feel really lost on this assignment. Can you help me figure out what to do? Right, again, that shouldn't be in the subject line. That can be potentially in the body of your email, but if you're getting a subject line like that, not quite a professional one, right? And then the final one, daily report. Yep, succinct to the point. Maybe not too descriptive, but I think maybe effective if that's all it really is about. Right, so subject lines, like I said, kind of keep them succinct, keep them to the point. It should act as kind of a preface to what the actual email is going to be about. All right, we can move on to the next slide here.
Hey, Ben, really quick. I know
Yep.
someone mentioned in the chat too that sometimes like your emails, you lose access to them or you lose like some credentials when you like graduate or anything like that, or when you part ways with them. So that is something I would definitely keep in mind too when putting your email on, like resumes and like professional documents too. You want to make sure it's an email address that you'll have access to after time or over time. So that was a good point in the chat.
Yep, always making sure you update that resume if you have a change, right? Telephone number, email, any of that contact information. You're going to want to make sure it's stuff that you're using consistently. All right, so then we've got signatures. So, these should include things like your title, your name, your title, potentially your pronouns, contact information. So that would include things like your phone or email. Sometimes your signature may have a graphic, but you want to make sure that it is relevant and pertains to what you're doing. My personal signature for work, it's got our logo for our company. That's succinct, it's relevant, it makes sense, it tells you where I'm coming from, and it gives you an address, a telephone number to reach our agency, not just me, right? So it's adding a little bit more context there. But if you're just having a graphic in there that doesn't tie to what you're doing or organization you're part of, you don't really need that. It's kind of extra, not as effective. All right, and I think we've got an example here as well on the next slide. Let's see, we've got the personal email design. Company's logo can be a great way to add credibility to your email, says Olivia. Clear the people that you have an affiliation. That's right. It shows you're part of a bigger organization. You're coming from somewhere bigger than yourself. All right, so here's a sample here. It's got name, position, PhD, Master's of Social Work, and then below it's listed the pronouns there. Underneath, there's your SummerWorks success coach. So that's name, credentials, pronouns, and then your title. And then below that, it's got University of Michigan, so that's the organization you're a part of. And then below, it's got a couple links there, LinkedIn and Twitter. I assume that both of those are professional profiles. You don't want to be linking your Twitter account if it's just kind of your hot takes on sports. So make sure if you're going to link those things that they're relevant to the job too and what you do, right? Everything that is in here should be linked to you professionally. You can hop on over to the next slide here. And checking email. So a couple of questions that we get a lot are, how often should you be checking it? I mean, if you're at an office job like I am, I'm checking it all the time, but when is appropriate to respond? So typically 24 to 48 hours. I've had business places where they expect the 24 hours. It kind of depends on where you're working. Some places have different expectations. Normally, you are not expected to answer an email on the weekend unless that's part of your job description. So generally etiquette 24 to 48 hours, but I would check with what your workplace protocol and culture is. It might differ from that norm. And then we've got the topic of ghosting. So I'm going to ask in the chat, what is your definition of ghosting? Or you can come off mute.
I would say making an arrangement or a commitment and then falling back on it. That can take many forms.
Right. We've got in the chat here, standing someone up, not responding, not being heard from for a while, not replying for a very long time. Right. So all of these are true, right, for ghosting. It's kind of, you disappear, essentially. You're not heard from for a while. Now, what's the problem with doing this? I think it's pretty straightforward, right? It's kind of your accountability, your professionalism on the line, right? If you're expected to be working with folks and dealing with problems and communicating effectively, and you stop communicating entirely, I mean, that's not holding yourself accountable. That's not going to reflect well on you as a professional. So extremely important that you do reply to things, even if you don't know an answer. It's better to reply saying, I'm not sure, let me go ask some folks and I'll gather some resources and come back with a better answer. That's totally fine. Just make sure you're replying, make sure you're communicating. Right. So Alexis here says, if you're ghosting, that they think you might not care. Victor here says, I need something to do with my hands because I'm ADHD. Gotcha. Right. So not being in contact for a while. Right. So ghosting, not a practice that you should be in. And if you are in it, get out. All right, we can hop over to the next slide, but I think I am going to be handing it over.
I was just wondering, what constitutes ghosting? I just, if I write out an email and send it to someone and I'm looking for their response, should I reply to that response? Or if they say I was asking a question and then they just responded or just said anything, should I then respond to their response, or can I just not respond to it?
I mean, I do think there's a little bit of reading in, like if you've got an email chain going on and it seems like you figured out what's happening, what I like to do, I'll just send like a, thanks for your help, really appreciate it. Thanks, Benjamin. Boom, send that out. Kind of ends the conversation, right? So usually, because most of our communication is built around getting a job done, some sort of teamwork, I need X from you, how can I help you, all those sorts of things. So for me, wrapping up those conversations with just a quick thank you or like appreciate your time, and then your sign off, just something simple like that. If you're feeling like you're not sure if the conversation's dead or what's going on with it. Does that answer your question?
Okay. So if ghosting is more if they ask me a specific question or ask me to be at a specific place and I don't respond or show up, not if I'm asking them a question and then they respond, I don't have to respond to that.
Exactly, Marlena, you got it.
Yep. Yeah, say you're working with a group and there's an email chain and someone asks you about the task that you have on the project and you just aren't heard from for 3 or 4 days, that's ghosting right there. Unless there's, of course, a reason. there always might be a reason, but right. But
I'm gonna so I just have a couple of points that I was supposed to go over that I'm gonna add to this. So I'm gonna skip to point 3 and then come back to the top 2. But I think something to highlight as well is that ghosting can particularly happen with interviewing. So you might, send your thank you email and not hear anything back. And unfortunately, that can be standard practice for some, companies or workplaces. Sometimes it has to do with their HR policies, like they're not allowed to contact candidates outside of specific methods and communications. But so just kind of, explain that it might happen, but that you want to be like on your side of things, not ghosting employers or, someone that you're working with. But at the same time, forgetting to respond to emails definitely happens, and that's not ghosting, especially with people you work with and you're emailing all the time. Like, for example, Zoe and I email probably hundreds of times a day. And sometimes things slip through the cracks. And so one of us just responds and says, by the way, don't forget about this, or let's circle back on this. And so it is okay to send simple reminders, especially if it's things like projects or responsibilities. And so that it is okay to do that. Or if you are waiting for a response from someone and you haven't gotten it, if you ask a specific question or ask for a specific thing, you can always follow up and say, hey, I'm just circling back on this. Can you let me know the status, or let me know, what's going on your end? So, and then, okay, so going back to when to send emails, when it's appropriate and inappropriate. So specifically inappropriate times, if you're upset or agitated, if something happens at, your place of work, or you're working on a team and things aren't going well, you want to make sure that you're calmed down before you respond to things that maybe is upsetting. If the message is really long, think maybe about scheduling a meeting instead, if it would be better presented in an email. Also, again, outside of working hours, typically not appropriate, but you can schedule send if you are working weird hours. And then appropriate times, providing regular updates during working hours, setting up a meeting, and asking for feedback. So kind of when and when not to send emails. And if you do think it's going to be rather long, to set up a meeting through email. And so I'm just reading the chat, but I think I am going to pass it back to Olivia to talk about email functions.
Awesome. Looking forward to talking about all of the important things that email can do. So one, and I think this is probably the most important thing, there are 2 different ways to reply to an email. There is the reply button and the reply all button. The reply button looks like an arrow, kind of going back, and the reply all button has multiple arrows. Whenever you are considering pressing the multiple arrow option, you really, really, really should take a look inside yourself and ask who on that email chain actually needs the information. If everyone really and truly does need it, then you can feel free to reply all. If you really only mean to say something to one person, make sure that reply or that email is only to that one person. If you reply to a full group of people and the information is not necessary or important to them, a couple of things can happen. One, you can accidentally send something that you don't mean to, or that somebody shouldn't see. So we really want to be cautious about who we're sending things to. And then also people can become frustrated when they're getting what they see as sort of spam emails that are not relevant to them. So Some of my funniest times in grad school have been people attempting to remove themselves from email chains where people continued to reply all to things. So I promise this is a way that you will make enemies, and I suggest you don't do it. All right. For the CC and BCC functions, has anyone ever used them? And can you tell me kind of what is the difference between them, or what are they for?
I think I know the definition. So
Awesome.
CC, I think, is for one person. And I think BCC, or no, sorry, CCC has that person read the email that you like, the email thread. And then BCC, I think, is one person not reading the whole thing, but I might have gotten that wrong, Olivia. So sorry.
That's okay. Anyone else? Yes, Jack says, yeah, Jack and Evie say that CC copies someone on the email and BCC anonymously adds them to the thread. So if you CC somebody, you're saying, hey, this is relevant to you, but it's not directly to you necessarily. So for example, on the SummerWorks team, we will try as hard as we can to always CC our shared email folder so that everyone has a sense of kind of what's going on in our communications and knows what has been responded to. But not everybody needs to be responding to every email. If you ask a question and you get 7 emails all saying the same thing, you will also be frustrated. So by using that CC function, we are able to make sure that we're only sending it, only one person's replying, and everyone can kind of see that it's being taken care of. You can also think of it as the to line is for people who need to take direct action on the email. And the CC line is for people who need the information, but don't necessarily need to take action on it. If you notice that someone else has copied others on an email, that's a good time actually to reply all, just to make sure that they're getting all the information. So if Zoe copies Kathleen on an email to me, I will reply all, because it means that Zoe thought Kathleen needed the information. I want her to know that she got my answer. BCC lets a recipient, so the person you're sending it to, know that they've been included on the email chain secretly. It is a great way to protect people's privacy if you are sending emails to a large group of people. So if we're sending emails out to the full SummerWorks group, we try to make sure that we BCC emails so that we're not advertising people's email addresses to each other without their permission. It's also a way to kind of copy someone on something or let them know what's happening. You want to be careful with BCC though. Don't violate people's confidentiality if you have told them that something is going to be confidential. And you also want to make sure that you are really thoughtful about whether that person does actually need to be secretly or anonymously featured. The paperclip button allows you to attach a file. So if you want to include further information or a document that someone needs to act on, attach it using the paperclip. Forwarding you use to pass along emails. One thing to think about with forwarding is how many emails in the chain are you sending along? So if you've been having a long conversation with someone, you may want to remove the emails that are not relevant to be forwarded and only send along the relevant emails. There are also a ton of other email functions. Are there other things that email can do that y'all can think of?
I have a question.
Yeah, please, Cameron.
So please correct me if I'm wrong. So when you're forwarding an email, I believe it's the email that you press on to forward, you'll only be forwarding that email and everything before that. Is that correct?
Yeah, so you'll send the email you're forwarding and everything before it, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Gmail can help with punctuation or with spelling or can make suggestions. Absolutely, Trinity. There's also ways to set up, if you're going to be out of office, automatic replies that let people know you'll be out of office until what day, just so that they know there might be a delay. And those are things that you can look into on your own time in case that's something you ever want to set up. Email can also help you with setting up an email app, a meeting. Absolutely, Allison. Kathleen notes that, yeah, Kathleen and Evie actually both said at the same time, basically, that Gmail has a schedule send, so you can make sure that the email gets sent at a particular time, which is great. And I will hand it over now to Kirsten.
Okay, so we've just covered a lot, and we are going to put your skills to the test. And so the next few slides are emails that have been sent out, and we're just gonna kind of look at them, and I want to hear what you guys think about them. So I'll read them first, and then you guys can blow up the chat or come off mute. This email, the subject is late, and the email, oh, can we go back to the previous slide? The email is, the project I'm working on will be late this week. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Who should I contact to let them know? And so either enter in the chat or come off mute and tell me what you think could be better about this email. I see bad spelling. Okay, a better subject line, capitalization. Yep, grammar definitely is an issue here. Grammar, punctuation, needs a greeting. Yep. Yep, more descriptive subject line, needs a greeting and closing. More reasoning. Yeah, further explanation. Yep. Not to the point. Yeah, so all of these are great. I think you guys got a lot of the ones that I wrote down. I would also mention that they say, who should I contact to let them know? And that's something we kind of already talked to about. You want to know who you're talking to. Sometimes that's not possible, but you know, if you're working on a team with people, then you want to know which coworker should or supervisor should know about this. But yeah, there's a lot of edits this email could have to make it more professional. And so we can go to the next slide. Thank you. And so does someone want to come off mute and maybe give us an example of something they would say? I know you also can't see it anymore, so I also have like an example. But we talked about a greeting, a signature, being more specific, changing the subject line. I would also put in there like a specific date. So if you know that you need 2 more days, asking, you know, hey, this was due on Tuesday. Can this be extended till Thursday? Or just letting them know, not leaving it open-ended. So I would change the subject line. I would use the name of the specific project so that they know exactly what you're talking about. Start with, you know, good morning, hello, good afternoon. The contact list project, again, naming that project I'm working on will not be completed by Tuesday. I apologize for this inconvenience. I think it would be great to be more specific and say, hey, I still need to do blah, 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 blah. So you could say, I still need to list the contact information for 5 more people. Can the deadline be extended till Thursday? Thanks, and then sign your name. So I would make some of those edits. And then next slide, please. Here's another one. Oh, I didn't even see you guys put these in the chat. Great. So here's another one, same kind of thing. I'll read it and then you can put in the chat or come off mute and mention some of the things that you think could be done better. And so this subject is extension with a question mark. Hi, I need an extension, the paper. I will also be missing class tomorrow. Can you tell me the important parts of what you're going over in class tomorrow so that I can get caught up? Thank you, with 3 exclamation points. 2 separate paragraphs, punctuation, bad grammar, spelling, needs a name, grammar again, Yep.
I would actually, if this was directed at a specific person or a group of people, like try to put the name of the person or the department and address it instead of just saying hi, maybe.
That's great. Being more specific about who you're talking to. Yep. Yeah, I think you guys bring up a lot of good points. There's some misspellings in here, some grammar issues, some unnecessary added punctuation. And so you would want to edit those sorts of things. You would want to edit the subject to be something more than just extension question mark. Probably mentioning the assignment or mentioning that project. And I think someone mentioned like making this separate paragraphs. I think for something like this, I would even separate the emails, because asking for an extension is a different issue than missing class and trying to follow up on that. And so I think 2 email threads kind of gets rid of the confusion and helps you follow your issues better or your circumstances better, and then may also help the professor or supervisor keep up with some of the different things you got going on. Next slide, please. Would anyone add to any of the edits that we already mentioned? I think having a greeting again, a signature was missing, addressing who you're talking to. Awesome. I would also say when you're asking for extensions, that it would be helpful to ask to like name a date. I know some professors will be like, don't just, asking for an extension is so open-ended. And so it would help them to, again, be like, Tuesday or 2 more days or whatever. And also doing that in a timely manner. If you have an assignment or a project due at 12, you don't want to be emailing them at 11:52 asking for an extension. That just may cause some other last minute issues. So I'm going to move to the next slide, and yeah, I'm passing it off.
Yes, so next, we just want to go over some like common templates for like work-related email functions and kind of discuss like what is effective about each. So the first one is scheduling a meeting. And so first of all, the subject line, we see scheduling a professional development curriculum meeting. So it is, very concise, very clear what this email is trying to like say, what the sender wants to talk about. And then we see, Dear Zoe, thanks for meeting with me this morning to talk about our next PE session. I was hoping we could schedule a meeting with Jordan to discuss changes to the curriculum for future weeks. This week I am available, and then they provide the dates, the days and the times. And they provide then if any of the time works for you. If not, I'm happy to look for additional times, look forward to meeting, and then best. So we see the duration of the meeting, what the person would like to meet about, and who should be there. So including someone else that maybe wasn't on that prior meeting. And then we see that inclusion of multiple times to really accommodate their schedule and see, what can work best for everyone because, people all have different things going on. And then offering that additional availability is just really kind of something that's conveying kind of like empathy and building a relationship with them. So saying, hey, it's totally okay if none of these times work. Let me know if you need more and we can revisit the schedule. So really just being nice and offering them any additional support. And then that nice, polite sign off. So, looking forward to meeting. We have best and then the name. And so in this instance, it's just signed Olivia because it's between team members who know each other. But if this might be like your first time you're scheduling a meeting with someone or a more formal event, you might want to include your full name in that signature. But again, that's just kind of up to you in the situation. And kind of, you know, what you think is best. But does anyone else have anything they want to add to what they think is good about this before we move on to the next example?
I kind of like how they kind of listed the specific dates. I think it would I would have preferred it more if they put it in bullet points so it would separate it a bit more, but it looks really concise.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for bringing that up. I think that's an excellent thing to note. You know, when you're formatting things definitely in an email, it's important to think about readability. So in this case, like she just said, maybe, you know, bring the bullet, which would just kind of separate the text and you can really see. And yes, I see Tabitha just put in the chat, don't be afraid to toss in bullet points in an email for sure. It definitely is a great organizational tool, so don't be scared of them. But yeah, and it's also something good I want to point out about the dates that's really important is when you're listing availability, make sure to include the calendar date. And then it's really good to also just include the day of the week. So the day of the week isn't necessary, but it just helps the person you're communicating with kind of identify it better on their schedule and think about what they have going on. So definitely be sure. And then it might go without saying, but make sure AM and PM. It's easier to overlook than you would think. So definitely just be mindful of that. But we will go to the next one. So the next one is requesting a day off. So this example, it just goes over kind of wanting some time off and communicating that with your employer. So we see the subject called requesting time off. So again, that's very precise. So lets the receiver know what they're talking about. So it's, hello, Zoe. I hope this message finds you well. I would like to request time off for vacation. The dates are Monday 5/31 and Tuesday 6/1. I have checked our shared scheduling calendar and no one else on our team is gone this week. So I would be able to make sure my responsibility is covered. Do these dates work for you? Please let me know at your earliest convenience and thank you for your consideration. Best, Olivia. So we see when they talk about the time off, they include those specific dates again, which is really important because it lets the people on your team know exactly when they need to accommodate for your absence and kind of work around that and making sure your boss can kind of clear that. So it doesn't have extensive detail about why you'll be out of office. So they don't need to know a lot about why you'll be gone. You know, obviously, if it's a special situation, you might need to share more. But in general, if you're just requesting a little bit of time off, you don't need to give like a whole narrative to your boss. Just be kind of precise and short that you want to be out of the office. And then it also does a really good job of showing initiative because the writer made sure to say that they're like, or check that their team will be in office and say that they will get the responsibilities covered if needed. And, you know, when other people are out of office, it can tend to be more difficult to kind of coordinate that time off because, you know, it's hard to have like numerous staff members gone. So making sure when you're doing that to be cognizant of those things is also really good. And then again, we see the polite thank you and sign off. And there's not an assumption in there that this is going to be granted. So it's always good to, you know, go in very straightforward. You don't want to assume you're getting this time off because it's not always something that can be accommodated. So really just trying to do as much work on the forefront to kind of get things prepared. It can be really helpful. So I see some things in the chat. Let's see. I think they should break up that paragraph. Yeah, you can definitely break up that first paragraph a little bit more if you wanted. Again, just being concise and making sure things are readable. But does anyone have anything else that they want to add to what they think might be good about this? Okay. Well, hopefully these help give you some guidance and kind of reference if you ever need to kind of build out some email templates. So as always, these will go out to you after PD. So they'll be around if you ever want to kind of reference them when you're writing emails, but definitely try and keep these practices in mind. And with that, I will pass it off to Kathleen.
All right, so just a quick summary of emails. So just kind of, summarizing what we've talked about. So make sure that your information is concise, and you have informational subject lines. Don't forget to proofread. And if your email is very long, it might be best to schedule a meeting. If someone sends you an email, it's best to respond by email unless there is a direct request to do otherwise. Always address the recipient by name. But that being said, if you're unsure of their gender identity, try to avoid using Miss, Mrs., Mr. Be sure to give context. Be sure to sign off using your name. Be aware of your tone, and also be sure to express gratitude. So signing off with, thank you for your time. Thank you for your consideration, something along those lines. So does anyone else have any summarizing things to add? I think we should be good. So I am going to pass it to Zoe to talk about phone etiquette.
Tabitha is actually pinch hitting for me.
Oh, sorry,
throat's a little
Tabitha.
funky. No, we like to keep you on your toes, Kathleen. But all right, so phone etiquette, a lot of times we'll be talking not just with in a professional setting over email, but on the phone as well. So right off the bat, when you jump on a phone call with someone or answer the phone or making the call, you want to very clearly state your name and what you're calling for. So a good example of this is when all of these success coaches were calling you all to let you know of your position. We all answer the phone with, hello, this is Tabitha calling from SummerWorks. I'm calling for Kirsten. So being very concise, the same way you would start an email, but just adding in that layer of making sure that you can be heard, as well as that signal is coming through. And then during the call, you want to make sure that, like in an email, you're using proper language. So it may feel more casual if you're communicating over the phone versus an email, but trying to keep in mind that it's still a professional conversation. And kind of in the same vein, unlike in an email, there won't be a written record of the conversation. So don't be afraid to take notes if you're having a business call, or something else that you need to remember what's being said. And if you're on that call, for example, if you don't have a pen and paper, it is more than appropriate to say, 1 second before we start, I need to grab a pen and paper. But if you're the one initiating the call, it's probably a good idea to start the call with your notepad handy. And in the call, unlike with email, you can actually hear your tone of voice and how you're talking. So how I'm talking to you all right now, I sound cheerful and happy and as if I'm having a conversation. So trying to bring that in to the phone etiquette is a great tool as well. And then a little bit more specific things. So if you need to transfer a call or put someone on hold to grab something, look something up, always ask their permission if you're going to take more of their time to do that. You just want to, as always, be mindful of their time, and you have them in real time on the phone, and asking permission is a great way to do that. And if it's going to be a long hold, just being very upfront about that as well. And then as they're asking questions, if you ever don't know an answer to a question, unlike in an email, you can look up the answer before you send an email back. You don't really have that luxury for phone, but the way to kind of circumvent that with phone etiquette is to be very honest, let them know that you don't know the answer right off the top of your head, but you're more than happy to find that information out and send it to them at a later time. Or as the slides here say, refer them to someone who does. And again, unlike email, you kind of are at the disadvantage to the point where they can hear the background noise. No one can hear my dog bark while I send an email, but you can hear my dog bark if I'm on the phone with you. So just being mindful of where you're located at. If you need to step outside, or if someone comes into the room while you're on the phone, it is again more than polite to say, excuse me, my brother just came in with the dog. I'm going to step into the other room. So just being mindful of not only your volume as you're speaking, but the noise around you, because that will also come through on the phone, and you want to maintain a professional environment. All right. And then again, unlike a phone call or unlike an email, you can't just send it and they'll get back to it when they get back to it. Sometimes you will have to leave a voicemail. So always be prepared to do that. A voicemail is kind of like a subject line. You want it to be very concise and very clear what you want to talk to them about, but also very short. So again, like how you start a phone call, if you were talking to them, you say your name, who you're calling for, and then a very short purpose of the call with a way to contact you back, be that phone or email or both, can also be very helpful for folks as well. And then kind of in the same vein, it's part of professional etiquette to make sure you're also checking your voicemail in case someone is leaving you a message. So just being very mindful of that. And if they send you a voicemail or they leave you a voicemail and you want to give them a call back, make sure it's within business hours. Or if they leave you an email or they leave you an email address in the voicemail, you are welcome to respond that way as well. And then, all right, I know I just went through a lot of information. I see there's lots of stuff in the chat, but can anyone else think of any other phone etiquettes? They can come off mute or put it in the chat. Anybody? Did I miss anything? Anything anyone else can think of? Try not to have your phone with you during a Zoom meeting. Absolutely. So if you're not on a phone call with your phone and you're on a video call, want to make sure that that phone is respectfully put away, just like if you were in a real meeting. You smile. It sounds like you're smiling over the phone. Absolutely. So if I'm talking to you, Trinity, like this, I don't sound like the most happy, bubbly, fun to work with person. But if I'm talking to you like this and I maybe look a little cheesy, you're totally right. You can tell that I'm smiling. That's a great point. Marlena, yes, putting that phone on airplane mode if you're in an in-person meeting or in a Zoom meeting. Silencing notifications to eliminate background noise. That's a great one, Evie. Wonderful. And kind of in the same line as what Ben was talking about, for a signature on your email or the name of your email, you want to make sure that your voicemail, if you have a recording set up, is very professional as well, or at least neutral. That way it's not, for example, you call someone and their voicemail hits and they say, hello. Just kidding, you got my voicemail. That's probably not it's funny, but it's not the professional voicemail box you want set up. All right. Anything else or any other ideas or thoughts people are having about phone etiquette? All right, wonderful. Then
I have a question.
Yeah, what's up, Victor?
Am I supposed to have a voicemail set up? Because I don't have one set up at the moment because me and my parents don't use voicemail, so we don't have one set up.
So I guess my question, it's usually a good idea. So people do have a way to contact you or leave a message for you. So if you don't have any voicemail box set up, it might be a good idea to set that up just in case. But if you have a voicemail, box, you just use the preset automatic recording. That's more than professional.
Okay, well, the thing is, if I miss a call from someone, the person that calls me usually sends me a message if it's someone I know, or
Yeah.
or if I see I miss a call from them, I just call them back after I see I miss a call from them.
Yeah, absolutely. So in a professional setting, people may not be aware that you have this system in place that's obviously working very well for you. So if you're able to set up a voicemail, that's great. If not, I wouldn't worry about it too much at this point, but any other program staff can jump in as well to that. Wonderful. Any other questions or thoughts about any of this? I know that was a lot.
Is the voicemail fine if it's like robotic or automated? Like I have a voicemail, but it's not specifically of me talking. It's just the generic one.
Absolutely. I would say that's more than professional, because there's no way that's going to come off inappropriate, if that makes sense. If you're able to record something, sometimes it can be nice to confirm, even if you just insert the unrecorded version of your name. So if it's all automated and then it says Marlena in your voice, that can be helpful for people, but that's very nitpicky. The automated voice is fine. All right, any other questions? Actually, that's totally fine. A lot of voicemails will read out the number. That's another great way that people can confirm that they're calling the right person and leaving a message for the right person. So I don't think you necessarily need to change that. Great questions. Does anyone else have any questions they want to go over? My pleasure. All right, wonderful. Then I'm going to pass it to Dallas to take y'all through some scenarios.
Okay, folks. Can everybody hear me okay?
I can.
Okay.
I can.
I'm not going to turn on my video today because my internet is not the best. Like even throughout everyone else moving around, it looks real choppy. So hopefully this will save me. But we can go to the next slide and do some scenarios. All right. So just to let you know, I like to talk to people. So I'm going to read this and I have a couple of questions for a couple of folks to answer for me, please. So this is a phone scenario. You've just missed an important call with your supervisor, from your position for the summer, right? Your summer position. You call back at a later time, but the phone call goes to voicemail. So if we have any budding actors or actresses or anybody who kind of likes to, I don't know, we'll say be colorful. Can somebody please give me an example of a professional voicemail?
I can try, or I can do
Go
it.
for it. Let's get it.
Okay, a voicemail. Hi, this is Cameron Evans. I'm just returning your call. Please give me a call back at 734-799, or my number. And then, thank you. Goodbye.
We're all about to call you right now at the same time. But okay, thank you, Cam. So let's just take it one by one, folks. What did she do well? How did we like that?
She did good because she restated her name and her phone number.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
I agree with Sydney.
Awesome. Thank you, Allison. Does anybody see or can they find, or what are some areas for improvement?
Can I make a comment?
Do it. Go for it.
I would say I should have restated maybe what they were calling for. say something about position for the summer, like restate what the phone call was going to be about in some type of way.
I like that you went back and checked yourself. Great job, Cam. Great job for real. Anybody else on any improvements? Okay. So I want to thank Sid, Allison, Cam. Great job. Great job, you all. Let's see here. Somebody please give me an unprofessional voicemail.
I could do that.
Go for it.
Hey yo, it's your boy. I'm just calling you about some random stuff. Call me back at my number. You should already have it.
You know, that was great. You know what? That's my favorite one, just because it was it was good bad. It was definitely good bad. No, but great job. So can somebody tell me, let's throw this out there. Did anything go well?
He at least called them back.
Hey, credit where credit is due, right? He at least called them back. Man. And Jack, I see Jack says at least he, greeted him. Hey, or what up, or whatever what he said. All right, here's a big one, right? Let me get maybe one or two. What are some areas for improvement?
I would say, oh, sorry.
No, I'm laughing. I'm sorry.
Oh, I would say restate your phone number, because it's possible that if this is from your supervisor, you should restate it. That's more professional. And also a different greeting instead of just hey yo, maybe hello, this is blah blah blah, more professional.
Right. Thank you. Anybody else? I mean, literally anybody else? This one's the easy one. I do see the chat is absolutely on fire also. You guys are really phoning them in, no pun intended. But great job. Can I get somebody to maybe speak on it at least one more time? Anybody? All right, I'm about to just call somebody. I'm gonna go with my guy, Jack. Just kind of repeat some things that you typed in the chat. I saw you going in.
So restating like their phone number and then like stating like why they missed the call.
Yep. Appreciate it. So I kind of feel like that one was pretty self-explanatory. The next step is for me or for any of our program staff here, some of the facilitators, to kind of go over best practice. But I know I've seen everybody in the chat, literally everybody, all of you all. I've seen Janae, I've seen Olivia, I've seen Tabitha. So there's not really much more to be said about that one. Can we go to the next slide, please? It was a little low, Jack, but I heard you. I definitely heard everything you said. Yep, and so could a few others. All right, so we're gonna do a little bit more acting, folks. This one is now in person. Our scenario: you forgot to reach out to the catering company, so your board meeting today doesn't have any food. Your supervisor was counting on you, right? So volunteer one, supervisor approaching the employee about the forgotten catering order. Volunteer two.
I volunteer one, Dallas.
Okay.
Knew I would, Dallas.
You said what, Allison?
I said I volunteer. You knew I would.
Okay, cool. Let's see. So we got Allison for one. Who wants to be volunteer two?
I'll do two.
Okay, I didn't see the name pop up. Whose voice is that?
It's Cheney.
Okay, Cheney. Okay, we got Allison. We got Cheney. Who wants to be number three for me?
I think I saw someone in the chat say they could be volunteer 3.
Yeah, I think we've got Ziomara listed.
Yeah, thanks, Janae. But yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, let's get going. Allison, can you kick us off? You're the supervisor. I need you to approach your employees or your volunteers.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, guys. I forgot your order.
Cheney, number 2, can we get a professional response?
Wait, am I like catering company or like the supervisor?
Well, you'll be
You're the employee, Cheney.
yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry about that. Contact fell through. I'll be sure to put somebody else in charge of catering next time since I didn't come through this time.
Okay. We're gonna take a pause before we get to the unprofessional, and I'm gonna ask them 2 questions. What went well? How did you all like her response?
I mean, I thought it was good. I thought it was very well centered.
Well centered. I like that.
Yeah.
What else? What else did she do well, folks? How did you all like it? I see Jack said calm, took accountability. The chat is literally overflowing again. Anybody else want to talk to me? All right, that's okay. I see that you all are typing away. Hopefully we can get somebody to talk to me next. All right, let's do the unprofessional response.
Should we start with like the first part or do I just go?
Well, you can just go. Allison kind of stated that the catering order had been, forgotten. So then we had Cheney give a professional response. So now we're going to go straight to you and give the unprofessional response.
Okay. Man, they couldn't do their job right. I guess we're gonna starve today. Too bad.
Straight up, just be hungry. All right, guys, here's another one. What, if anything, went well with that?
She wasn't yelling, at least.
Hey, that's a plus. That's a plus. Anything else? At least they know they're hungry. Some humor. Yep. All right. Well, let's see if I can get another person with here's one. Here's an easy one for you guys. What are areas of improvement? All right, I'm gonna pick somebody. Oh no, I think I heard somebody.
Oh, she didn't really take responsibility as the manager. She kind of blamed it all on her subordinate.
Okay, so she was really accusatory. Awesome. No accountability. She said everything, honestly. All right, let's go to the next slide. I think we kind of fleshed that one out as well. Thank you, everyone. So, okay. Just go ahead and take a look at something real quick, guys. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so as far as debriefing, right? As far as debriefing, we're gonna take both scenarios into consideration. With the phone example, what did you all learn about the phone scenario, about communication, about professional versus unprofessional? What are some take homes? I see the importance of voicemail. Again, feel free to jump off the chat and jump off mute and talk to me if you feel. Tone matters. I see that.
Restate. It's nothing wrong with restating, just to be sure that they know who to contact, how to contact you, who you are, stuff like that.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. I hear don't slack. Just because they can't see your face doesn't mean they can't hear it in your voice. Knowing how to make an email more professional. Great answers, great answers. Okay, what about the in-person scenario? What are some take homes? What did we learn? Right, I'm about to call somebody. How about Julia? Are you willing to Talk to me real quick. What did you learn from the in-person scenario? Yeah, the example. What did you learn from the in-person example? Just some maybe key points to take home to point out. She learned to be professional with communication, whether that be phone or in person, or how to be. Good job, good job, good job. So is anybody going to apply any of this when they go to work? I hope so. I hope we can take home some of those good points, use them in our conversations, may it be in phone or I'm sorry, maybe on the phone or in person. Can I get like a super big yeah?
You can get a hell yeah from me.
Love it. I love it. I love it. Appreciate it. All right. So I don't know how you guys are feeling, but this metal chair I'm sitting on kind of has it's created some issues for your boy right here. Go ahead and stand up, give yourself a stretch, touch them toes. How do you all feel about a bio break? Kathleen, Zoe, Olivia, is there time for that?
Real quick. Real quick.
So if there's a bucket right by your chair, guys, go for it.
But while we are doing that, the next section, we are going to do the youth choice workshops instead of reflection, just so that we can cover that. So I'm going to open the breakout rooms. You can choose now or choose when you get back from your break. Very quick break, please. But we have introduction to conflict management, communication styles, and public speaking. So you will be allowed to choose which room you want to go to. And so then you can pick and head on over there. Olivia, I don't know if I missed anything, but.
Oh, that was great.
Okay.
We likely will not have time for reflection. I know I promised Allison, but you all were just so engaged. So it's a good problem to have. If you do want to come talk to staff members after, though, we'll hang out as usual. So you do not have to come back here after your workshop, but you can. And for staff members, I'll make sure everyone gets to where they need to go so you can head into your breakout room.
Hey, Ben, did you get my email?